picture of it for sure.
In their perspective, and just wondering in your circles, Sam, of all the people you end up getting to talk to, what do you think the impact for the Celtics will be on this Tatum injury? Because, he is going to be out for an extended period of time. This was a team that had a championship window that was still open, but what kind of impact do you think that will have on them and the league?
So even if the Achilles is fully intact and he's Jason Tatum, full health, they had a tricky summer ahead of them already because, and then shameless plug of the week, John Hollinger at our place had a really good story the other day talking about the Celtics and the Cavs and teams like them where it's like, you guys know, like the second apron ramifications are just incredible. And the championship windows all of a sudden are pretty small. They close pretty quickly. And so money wise, this, payroll and this roster is headed towards some kind of a breakup. It's not a rebuild breakup, but it is a, goodbye Holiday, goodbye Derek White, like one of those type of guys, goodbye Porzingis. The Tatum thing, it just, I don't know. They have new ownership and now it calls into question what strategy do they want to go with? Because, he's your guy. He's signed through 2029. He's not going anywhere, but your level of competitiveness is impacted, even though it didn't look like it last night. Obviously that was a great game for them, but it's just, it's devastating. And then you have, the Tatum individual part of it, which is just very unfortunate. They had a real chance to, and they technically still do, but like for him to be a back-to-back champion. So it's just terrible. And the optics of, or just the visuals of him going through what he went through the other night, that was hard to watch.
So the Celtics are going to have a perhaps interesting summer, or actually they might even have a boring summer though with Tatum being injured. That might preclude them from doing a bunch of stuff. Milwaukee's going to have themselves an interesting summer. Sam, you've been through this before. We've heard Giannis rumors before, and then he always ends up staying, re-upping, doing whatever. Is this different?
Not yet. It's funny because with all due respect to my friend and former colleague at The Athletic, Shams Charania, the ESPN had kind of framed the latest Giannis story as, for the first time, Giannis was open-minded about leaving the Bucks. And I just, I definitely don't agree with that characterization. Every single time he's had a Supermax extension on the table, or that discussion to have, he's made it, he's kind of made the Bucks work for it, whether it's just delaying the choice or, actually signaling that he wants them to make roster changes. And then they have the Damian Lillard trade, Drew Holiday before that. So the thing now is that he's older, the struggles are greater. You're talking 3 first-round bow outs, 2 in a row to the Pacers, getting swept. It's a tough look. And then you have the Damian Lillard Achilles injury that really complicates things, because as if it was not bad enough already that they just hadn't been as good together as hoped, at least collectively. Now, like I've written multiple times, like they were going to talk to Dame about possibly trading him, and it was a mutual thing. He was potentially looking elsewhere. But, that could have been a means to shaking up the roster one last time, maybe adding some depth. He's still an all-star who's giving you 25 and 6, whatever it is. But now he's a guy who can't play basketball. So it's pretty devastating for everybody.
I know they could have gotten or could get whatever they want really for Giannis, but is now the time? Does it make sense though, Sam, for them to explore that based on, look, Dallas has the number 1 pick now on the lottery. I don't know if they're going to move that, but you've got Houston that would show some interest. I'm sure San Antonio has potential interest. OKC could have the means. I feel like they could get a haul. Do you think that Milwaukee will pursue?
Yeah, Jay, I caught most of that as I was jumping over to video here. Sorry, can you give me the clip notes real quick on that question?
Yeah. Does it make more sense though now? I know Giannis maybe has always kind of stuck around with him, but Milwaukee to transition to this with, I think, 3 or 4 real potential suitors that could give Milwaukee kind of a fresh start and certainly help Giannis go to a more competitive team, I guess.
Yes, but I continue to get reminded, man, my close-up shot is a lot here.
Love it. It's you.
Am I doing that, or is that on your end?
No, that's on our end, Sam. We want to see your face.
Yeah, we love it.
I mean, dude. My Lord. So I keep getting reminded that, like, I'm stating the obvious, but I think Bucks fans would like us to state the obvious. He is like, Lou Alcindor famously played for their team, won a championship, went to the Lakers. Other than that, and Giannis has been there longer, he is the best basketball player the city has ever had. And they do not take the topic of him departing lightly. And there is a school of thought from the Bucks, and our beat writer Eric Name did a nice job writing this the other day, that, like, okay, before saying, oh, look at the shiny offer from the Spurs or the Rockets or the Knicks or the Nets, although that, the Nets are certainly looking at it. Every team across the league, even the Mavs, like, oh, you want to give us Cooper Flag, which is not going to happen. The Bucks would rather, if Giannis was up for it, do what we'll call a gap year, which is like, let's all agree we're not going to title contend this year. But, Kobe had times during his Lakers career where there were little respites in between contention. Steph did as well. Where you're going to be an MVP caliber player, you're going to get individual accolades, and people are going to see your greatness on a nightly basis. And then you got to give us a little bit of time here to figure this out, because they are just so handcuffed right now. It's not going to happen this summer. So that's the calculus. But Giannis is the one who is in charge, is talking to people right now, trying to get various opinions of how people see the situation. Historically, what will happen next is he and his agent, Alex Saratzis, and also his European agent, will sit down with John Horst, the Bucks GM, and hear John's vision for what he wants to do. And if the vision makes him happy, then all the noise goes away. And if it doesn't, he doesn't even necessarily ask out at that point. It might be another meeting when it says, no, that doesn't sound good. Let's come up with another plan. So I think it's going to be a drawn out process, to be honest.
Sam Amick joining us. There is no question the weirdest story of the year is in Texas. Nico Harrison, you want to talk about a roller coaster, goes from fire Nico chants, which those might still exist, for making one of the most inexplicable trades in modern NBA history, many say, to getting not just the number one pick in the draft with a 3% chance, but it's one of those drafts where they say a generational talent is there in Cooper Flag, a two-way guy. Now, all of a sudden, you're looking at Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, Cooper Flag, and friends. I think a lot of people would say that's a better team than the one that had Luka, mainly for defensive purposes. But my goodness gracious, what a roller coaster this year for both Nico, the Mavs, and Mavs fans.
Indeed. Craziness. I'm sure you guys hit this topic the other day, and I know I'll sound like an NBA spokesman or propaganda guy, but like the conspiracy theory talk, like, just do some homework and look at the extensive reporting, very transparent reporting that is done every single year on the process. And even one of our guys had a great piece last year talking. He actually interviewed magicians and, kind of Houdini types to combine the details of the process with a person like that's perspective on, with your skills, is there any way you could pull this off? And it was like, no, there's nothing you can do with this. So, it is insane that is legitimately how this landed. Nico and his reaction, the cameras catch him, and Michael Finley sitting next to him. He jumps out of his chair. He's ecstatic. I know sports fans don't, we all don't slow down often enough to think about the human side of things. Like Nico, his family there's been a lot happening there. Like the fans have been all over him. So in that sense, I'm happy for him, but it's crazy because Kyrie's going to take a while to get back, but if you talk about that roster at full health, and let's say Kyrie got back in January, February, something like that, and had a ramp up, or even the following year, I mean, that's a damn good team. And it gives Cooper a chance to obviously kind of find his way in an environment where it's not like DeMarcus Cousins, a la whatever year he came into the league, where you got to carry a franchise right out the gate. So often that's the rookie experience that is kind of, just not the healthiest route. So, Mavs fans, I think Rick Welts, their team president, very happy guy because he's in charge of season ticket holders and all the money that they were bleeding. So I think some of that is going to come back now.
I'm wondering if there's any league-wide pushback, Sam, because, I mean, it was great drama, incredible theater to see. Is it going to be the Spurs? Is it going to be the Mavs? But, another year where the team with the worst record doesn't win, and the league has done its best to avoid tanking, to add the play-in, to, hurt the odds of the worst record teams. But, the 2 or 3 of the worst records didn't benefit at all. Any pushback from anybody around the league about the way the system is set up?
Yeah, I think there's the sense that, it's working too well, if that makes sense. Because it didn't cut out all the tanking, but the tanking has improved quite a bit. There still was a fair amount of kind of unabashed tanking. And the Sixers are the only team that benefited from it in this situation, where they kind of soft tanked, or, not soft, but at the end, they end up holding onto their pick. The Jazz, the Wizards are looking at it like, they are teams in desperate need of talent, and they didn't get it in this draft. I think Adam Silver is probably mostly happy. I think there's going to be discussion from GMs about, could we maybe taper off the flattening of the odds, from 14%, being the maximum, up to, I forget where it was at before, 28, 25, maybe somewhere in the middle. But I don't know. Personally, it's, and I know I've never been in that GM spot, but I don't have a ton of sympathy for it. It's like, well, this is why they did it. You're supposed to just compete and play the games, and then just see where the balls fall in the lottery. And, we do now have this trend of pretty competitive teams getting pretty damn good picks.
I want to go back to the conspiracy thing, because, by the way, I 100% agree with you. There's, I don't need to agree with you. I think it's fact. There's just no way that's happening. And like you said, do the homework and just read many articles, whether it's Ernst & Young or the fact that each team has a representative back there. I would just ask this, though. I feel like some of this with the NBA, is it self-inflicted, Sam? Why, I don't know, why not just televise it? Why not just televise the whole process? Or even if that means you've got to streamline it to make it more televisable, why not just televise the whole thing?
No, that's fair. I mean, it's crazy that the people in the room have like an hour where they know what happened, and the rest of the world doesn't,
It's like a conclave.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
The white smoke for Cooper Flag.
The Duke Blue. So yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. I mean, they're pretty transparent about it. I'm not a TV expert. I don't know.
Have you been in there, Sam? I'm sorry. Have you been in there as one of the reporters before?
No, it's admittedly one of the funny, self-induced kind of parts of my fun NBA run. I've literally never even been to the draft. Every time this year, this is just my own stamina. Every time this time of year comes around, it's always been playoff heavy, and it's like there's no way I'm juggling a trip to New York on top of this. But I might change it next year. I'm having a little FOMO. The more the years go by, I would like to see it. But a lot of my friends and colleagues have been in the room. Again, our Mike Vorkanoff at our place wrote a really fun piece from inside the room the other day, and including the Mavs assistant GM Matt Riccardi. This is, as dads, we can appreciate this. He had a little folder with him that day with all the info about the odds and the probabilities and everything that was going to possibly go into their chances for Dallas. And he had a little sticker of an owl that was closing his folder, and it was his 1.5-year-old son had, quote unquote, got it for him as a good luck charm because Matt's buddies growing up called him the owl for whatever reason. So it was just, it's like this, like it is this room where all these grown people just lean all the way into whatever like superstitious sensibilities they have, and everybody's bringing Lucky Charms and everybody's just crossing their fingers, and the Mavs won it. But to your, as far as the conspiracy side, yeah, I mean, televising it would help. You mentioned Ernst & Young, like that company would be debilitated if it ever got out that they were part of a sham.
Yeah, right.
This, and it would be a felony. You would be legitimately, so
David Stern said that once. He said, it's so funny. Anytime, maybe it was to Jim Rome. I forget who he said it to, but he said, do people realize when they bring this up, they're accusing me of multiple felonies and racketeering?
Right.
Like, it's not just like, oh, I'm making it up for the team.
Well,
like,
here's my pet peeve too. I've actually been meaning to get this off my chest. This is the perfect forum. Who needs to stop talking like this is the guy who was in the discussion for greatest player of all time. Like LeBron has on podcasts publicly talked about how when he went to Cleveland that it was obviously rigged because there's no way you're putting me back in my hometown. And he had like 2 or 3 different examples, and it's like, my God, LeBron.
Yeah,
like,
Derrick Rose to Chicago, Ewing to New York, him to, I remember this. Yeah, I saw it. It's crazy.
So that is not helping.
Yeah. We're talking with Sam Amick from The Athletic, brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Sam, Warriors eliminated last night, understandably, losing Steph did them in. They didn't really get playoff Jimmy the last couple of games, but they are kind of cap tied too with Steph and Jimmy and Draymond going forward. What's next for the Warriors? Just another run at it? What do you think?
I don't know. It's funny. When they beat the Rockets and I was in Houston for Game 7, I, somewhat definitively wrote my opinion that victory, made the Jimmy Butler trade a success, that it was meaningful basketball. That's all Steph Curry wanted. He got that. And I still believe that, but you very quickly pivot and go, oh boy, like now you have 2 more full years of Jimmy at $120 million combined, 60 apiece. You have Steph and Draymond not getting younger, Jimmy not getting younger. You have the Kuminga situation this summer where I think he'll head elsewhere, but we'll see what happens there. It's just the question of how competitive they're going to be next year is front and center. Now they do have, the Pajemskis and the Moody's, the Trace Jackson Davis, like those guys will get better. I don't have their cap sheet in front of me and forget free agency wise what they're dealing with, but beyond Kuminga. But, they're going to be a team that is fighting to get in the playoffs and fighting to maybe get home court. I do wonder, this is just me talking for now, I haven't looked into this, but, I wrote the other day when we had a Giannis piece about the Giannis thing has always floated out there when it comes to the Warriors. And I had shared a little detail that could be nothing, could be something about how at All-Star weekend, Giannis was the only non-Warriors player who was hanging out at Steph's All-Star party. And it was, if I'm being honest, it was something else to be in the room and see all these Warriors people with their jaws on the floor going, oh my God, there he is, and it was right next to Chase Center. So you do, whether it's Giannis or anybody else, you wonder if Joe Lacob, doesn't at least have a few conversations this summer about, do we need to swing even bigger? I don't know if they would ever think about coming off Jimmy and looking at his market so quickly. Probably not. But Joe is ultra competitive, and they're going to be continuing to kind of chase Father Time here, or keep ahead of Father Time when it comes to Steph and his the end of his career here.
Last thing for you, just got to ask. I mean, not much going on with the Kings right now. You have a chance to sit down with Scott Perry yet? Is that on the radar? Just kind of looking ahead to the summer.
Yeah, we're supposed to chat soon. But I saw his press conference a while back. Was in touch with BJ Armstrong a little bit, the new assistant GM. I mean, we'll see. The Mike Woodson thing became official, and yeah, I mean, not a ton there. I certainly saw Jake Fisher of Substack reported the stuff that had already kind of been out there about DeMar DeRozan's future being somewhat in question. I think for sure that's on point. I mean, in general, it feels like, and I don't know how Scott sees the roster right now, but it does feel like everybody agreed they need a point guard. And then ironically, everybody kind of agrees that the ball is in too many people's hands, that it's Zach and DeMar and Demonis and Malik. So it had felt like one's got to go, and DeMar wants to be in a pretty competitive situation, and we'll see what happens there. But, that's all I got for now, buddy.
Well, as always, like to end the Sam Amick Show, brought to you by Jiffy Lube, with a piece of fan mail, this time from the text line. Let's go to Homer James on the text line, Sam, who says, and I'll quote this here, you guys
are annoyed.
Oh, no. This is a good one. No, this is somebody who, I wouldn't do that. You guys are both shells for the NBA. The reason the drafting is rigged is because shells like you come out and defend it, so afraid to lose your job. So, as a fellow shell, I would just like to say, Sam, that my general rule is if you're struggling with how to spell shill, you probably shouldn't be critically thinking.
I was very confused by shell.
You're a shell, Sam.
Hey,
Stop
buddy.
being a shell, you shell.
At least I'm not a homer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Hey, well done.
Homer's calling you a shell.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a great weekend. Love to the family. We'll talk to you soon. And thank you as always.
All right, y'all. Be good.
You shell. Sam Amick. Close up and personal with you.
Yeah.